Hello Eden community, I'm Jeff Sortisio. I'm your newly appointed school superintendent, here to talk to you today about the Budget Revote, which is scheduled for July 28th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the foyer of Eden High School and Middle School. So really one of the most important things for the community when it comes to the school budget is what it means for those individuals who pay school taxes. And what I'm talking about is the dollars and cents for the individual. In Eden, we actually have a school tax rate that is less than what it was in 2011 and 2012. There is a bit of an increase from last year, but that increase has been limited to 32 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. So for a typical home in Eden, you're talking about $32 or so additional cost for school taxes this school year. The other questions I've heard a lot is what's going on with the district reserves and what does that mean? What's a reserve? Well, the guidelines that we follow allow a school to set aside money for future costs. For example, in the first vote, the taxpayers, the voters, approved the use of a reserve line to purchase new buses. The money in that line had been saved over time so that when new buses are needed to keep our fleet safe, the money was there, meaning it was set aside for that specific purchase. Reserves are really important in terms of the fiscal stability of a district because it allows us to plan for future costs. For example, school districts are required to pay a portion of certain retirement costs, and we know that when the stock market and the economy go bad, school districts' costs in those areas go up pretty significantly. It's a fair bet that next school year we'll need to utilize our reserves in those areas to offset some of those additional costs. Some of the questions I've heard about reserves is why we don't simply move that money from the reserve account to further offset any tax increase. And we really are very limited in what we're able to do. Use of reserves is highly regulated. Some reserves require voter approvals. The example that I shared earlier about the bus purchase is one. And other reserves can only be used for their specific cause. For example, a capital reserve line is used to offset any future projects the district may need to entertain. Another part of the budget that's important to discuss is the capital outlay. Each school year, districts can embark on what's called a capital outlay, which is a maximum of $100,000, and those funds are used for maintenance of the building infrastructure. Now in Eden, we've got some great buildings, we've got some great history in these buildings, but history also means that things are tending to get a little bit older. So when you think about the repair of a roof, or some pavement repair, or any of those regular infrastructure repairs that need to go on, those typically come through a capital outlay. The only way you can utilize the $100,000 worth of funds in capital outlay is if you have an approved budget. Capital outlays are not permitted in a contingent budget. I've also received some questions about why we're revoting on the budget. Schools are regulated by the state, of course, and by the state education department, and we are permitted to go out for a revote a second time, and that is a maximum number of times a budget can be voted on. So on July 28th, the second budget will be put forth to voters. It is a reduction from the previous budget. So following the guidelines of the New York State Department of Health and the Governor's Office, we will be holding an in-person revote on July 28th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the vestibule of the high school and middle school building. Of course, face masks will be required, and we do expect social distancing to take place. Those folks who are not comfortable in coming out for an in-person vote need to contact the district office for a request for an absentee ballot. One of the things that's important to understand about a school district budget is sometimes we're faced with unfunded mandates. One of those unfunded mandates is what's called a building condition survey. Every 5 years, school districts have to have a deep examination of the infrastructure of their buildings. This year, Eden is going through that process to the tune of about $81,000. Now, this can be money well spent because the building condition survey tells you everything you need to know about your building structures, your boilers, your heating systems, your cooling systems, but it also points towards areas that we need to take a look at to make sure it's a safe environment for all of our students and staff. Safety, of course, is always our #1 priority, and never more so than our current situation. So one of the things that I found in a very short period of time here, and again, I'm only in my third full week of being an employee of the district, is how wonderful it is to work in this rural community. I was lucky enough to have a tour of the entire district on one of our buses, and what a beautiful area it is. Now I knew this because I don't live too far away, but you look through it from a different lens when you are now charged with being responsible for the district. So all of you, all of the community members know the benefits of living in a rural community, and I certainly support that. The other side of being a rural school is that our tax base is limited. There's not a lot of businesses. There's certainly no big box stores that can take away the tax burden for the individual homeowners. We're also considered a slow growth district, meaning we haven't added a lot of new parcels to the tax rolls. So the tax burden is shared amongst really a finite group of people. That's one of the reasons some of my most important work is to really examine that budget with a hard eye to make sure that we are being fair to our community, but we're also offering a high quality program for our students. We certainly offer high quality programs in Eden. There's an outstanding music and athletic and arts program for sure, but the academics are top notch as well. Our students have a range of opportunities from really unique technology classes where they get to work on choppers, which is just an amazing unique component of this district, to advanced placement courses. We have a pre-K program that is really well embraced by the community, and it really is the best way to reach our youngest learners. Part of what I'm learning here is that the district has a history of long-range planning, and typically school districts will plan in a 5-year window. This is really important and never more important than our current state of affairs. You may have heard that state aid has been cut or will be cut, and both of those scenarios are true. Okay? State aid was reduced from what the legislature recommended to the governor. Our state aid was actually flat this year, meaning there was no increase, and in fact there was a bit of a decrease because of some change in costs. And we have heard repeatedly to anticipate that state aid will be cut or withheld this coming school year. The governor has used as much as 20%, but not actually put a dollar amount on it for us. That's worrisome, of course, but because the district has had a long-range plan and an appropriate use of reserves, we are in a good position to weather whatever storm we face. The second part of why long-range planning is important is because it gives us predictability as much as we can predict in a volatile market about what our costs will be in future years. We know where our staff is, we know generally what those costs will be, and we can start to really work on making sure that the tax burden for our community is fair each year. And really, when we do ask for an increase, make it as minimal as possible. I was really grateful when I started examining the Eden School District to learn that not too long ago, the district adopted a one-to-one technology plan. Now, one-to-one technology plan means that every student who learns here is assigned some level of technology. It could be an iPad, which our youngest learners are really adept at, or it could be a Chromebook that students utilize in the elementary and upper grade levels. This is a great tool. Technology is a great tool to supplement the educational program. But boy, did it really come in handy in the recent pandemic. Eden was well poised to transition to remote learning really in a matter of about 48 hours because the technology was in the hands of the learners. So what does this mean? We have an awful lot of electronic devices, but there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, and that's really what you would consider the technology infrastructure. That would be switches and servers and a whole host of supporting equipment, which is expensive, of course, but it really helps drive the educational program. And those items do need attention from time to time and are supported through our budget process. So, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic really has changed the way we operate, and it's also changed the way we plan. Currently, we have a team of about 35 or 36 community members, business owners, parents, teachers, support staff, administrators, and board members working together collaboratively to develop safe plans for the reopening of our school buildings. Once those plans are finalized, they will be posted on the district website. Along with the planning comes the requirement to make sure we have the right materials to make sure our schools are as safe as possible. You can imagine that we will be purchasing face coverings and face shields and maybe even some dividers to make sure our students and our staff are safe. These costs will be borne out of the budget, and we will do so as well as any other items that are deemed necessary to keep things as safe as possible. I just want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video and learn more about our budget. I ask that if you have any questions or concerns, you reach out to me at district office. Email or phone is welcome. You can always stop in and for a socially distant visit as well. And also this Thursday at 7 p.m. I'll be launching a Facebook Live meeting where we can discuss the budget further, as well as you can share your questions and concerns about the reopening of school. So I hope you're able to join me again 7 p.m. this Thursday on Facebook Live.